everyone. Welcome to Tuesday edition of Take 5. I hope you had a good weekend. I hope it was a time of rest and maybe of worship, maybe time of family as well, and maybe a time of reflection. Part of our theme as we're doing these Take 5s this summer is that we're going to take the time to reflect a little bit, as we do often in the summertime. It's been a crazy year and a half. Maybe the fall's going to bring new life, a refreshing start. And so now's a good time to take a little look at things. The book we've chosen to look at most of this summer is the book of Ecclesiastes. And it's not anything if it's not a book that causes us to reflect. It's a book that has more questions than answers. And so last week we looked a little bit at the enigma of life that Ecclesiastes introduces, and then I told you a little bit about why I love this book, because it is so honest. It says life is like a puzzle, and we can't really figure it out. And when we're really honest with ourselves, we know we can't figure it out. We get thrown so many curveballs. Today I just want to look at the end of the book, just to show you that this writer's purpose is not some weird, bizarre thing. People have questioned, is he some sort of Epicurean philosopher? Martin Luther thought maybe he was a pagan Egyptian poet because he wasn't getting his point. His point is really clear, and his point is all about helping us understand life and living it well. So sometimes when I get a book, even off the shelf at Barnes & Nobles or wherever, I like to look at the beginning of the book, and then I like to look at the back of the book, just to see where it wanted to start and where it ended up. And in some ways, Ecclesiastes isn't a bad book to do that with as well. I want you to hear his conclusions, his objectives, as he wrote Ecclesiastes for us. He writes this, Ecclesiastes 12 and verse 10, he says, "The teacher," it's what he calls himself, Koheleth, the leader of the assembly, sought to find delightful sayings and write words of truth accurately. That's what this book was. Delightful sayings. And if you read it for yourself, and I would encourage you to do it as you go along, make Ecclesiastes maybe your summer reading. Delightful sayings, accurate words. I think he's very accurate and very truthful. He then says these sayings of the wise are like cattle prods. Think about that. What's he trying to do? Is he just trying to confuse our minds as we're reflecting on life? No, they're like cattle prods. You know what a cattle prod is? It's pushing the cattle to a direction that the farmer wants them to go. He's herding them in a particular way. Solomon, Koheleth, is trying to do that with us. He's trying to prod us toward God. That's what these words in this book are about. Life is an enigma. Indeed it is. But as you reflect on what he's saying in your own life, it's like a cattle prod that's pushing you somewhere. And it's pushing you the way that the way the Lord wants you to go. He's like cattle prod. He says, the sayings of the wise are like cattle prods. And those from masters of collections, talking about wisdom, are like firmly embedded nails. They're like very deep tent pegs. And so what's he saying? He's saying the storms of life are going to be thrown at you more than you'll ever know. But his words, these words of reflection, of enigma, are meant to be like tent pegs that do what? They keep the tent from floating away when the storm comes. These words are like helping you to be secure, to be strong, that you don't float away when the difficulties of life inevitably come. That's what he's trying to do. And then he calls himself this. These sayings are given by one shepherd. That's what he sees himself as a shepherd, as a pastor, as a leader of people, leading them toward the Lord, goading them on, and securing them in the storms of life. And then he makes this conclusion, and I'll conclude with this too. Verse 13. When all has been heard, the conclusion of the matter is this: fear God and keep his commandments, because this is for all humanity. For God will bring every act to judgment, including everything, every hidden thing, whether good or evil. In the end, what are we supposed to do? Fear God. It's the beginning of wisdom. I think in the past we've talked about fearing God, respecting him, trusting him, knowing his hand, fearing God, and keeping his commandments. Live your life, but live it well. Live it obediently. Live it within his guidelines, even as you try to solve at least look at this enigma called life. I love his objective. His objective is to goad us toward God, secure us like tent pegs, and tell us, follow the Lord. Follow the Lord. You find him in Christ. Christ kept the commandments, and we follow his example and receive his gift of following them for us. I'll continue tomorrow. But I think hearing the objective and conclusion of this writer is really important. He wants to shepherd us, pastor us well. Enjoy reading your book. Enjoy your reflections. I'll see you on Thursday.